Sheikh Hamdan's invitation to Shamma carried with it not just the simplicity of travel, but the weight of his heart, his memories, and his yearning for a new chapter far from the eyes of the world. England, with its rolling green hills, quiet countryside, and timeless palaces, was not just a destination. It was a canvas upon which he wanted to paint the story of their togetherness. His words, filled with depth, carried the emotion of a man torn between duty and desire, yet ready to extend his soul to the woman who had quietly taken over his heart. When he first told her about the invitation, his tone was soft, almost hesitant, as though he was afraid the moment might slip from his grasp. He spoke of London's quiet evenings along the Thames, of ancient castles that whispered tales of loyalty and love, and of gardens where the flowers would bloom brighter in her presence. His voice trembled with both fear and hope, because this was not just an invitation to a place. It was an invitation into his innermost world, a step into the private corners of his life that very few had ever seen. Shamma, hearing his words, felt a wave of warmth sweep over her. She knew England was a land of history, poetry, and grace, but to be there by his side meant something greater than any beauty the land itself could hold. She saw in his eyes the reflection of sincerity, the vulnerability of a man who carried immense responsibilities yet longed for the simple happiness of walking beside the woman he loved. His emotional words carried her heart across the oceans before she even stepped onto the plane. Sheikh Hamdan envisioned their time in England not as a royal visit filled with formality, but as a retreat from the world's expectations. He wanted to take her to the countryside, where they could ride horses across open fields, where the silence was broken only by the sound of wind and laughter. He imagined reading poetry to her under the shade of old trees, sharing verses that had lived in his heart for years, waiting only for her ears to receive them. His voice would be low, but every word would hold the intensity of his truth. In one of his emotional confessions, he told her that England was not chosen by chance. It was the land where he often found himself lost in thoughts during his younger days, a place that gave him solitude to dream, to write, and to heal. Now, he wanted her to be part of those dreams, to heal with him, to write with him, and to dream with him. His words revealed a side of Fazza few had witnessed, the man behind the prince, the lover behind the leader. As the date of their departure neared, Sheikh Hamdan wrote letters to Shamma filled with heartfelt promises. He promised her that England would not only be a journey through landscapes and cities but a journey into his heart. He told her he would show her not the royal banquet halls, but the hidden corners where he sought peace. He would not just walk her through palaces but would walk beside her in parks where children played freely, reminding them both of innocence and joy. The moment they landed, the air itself seemed to shift. England welcomed them with its cloudy skies and crisp breeze, but in the midst of it all, Shamma felt warmth because his hand never left hers. His eyes sparkled as he looked around, not because of the city that stretched before them, but because she was now part of it. He whispered to her that her presence had already changed the land, that England would now forever hold their story in its soil and stones. Sheikh Hamdan's words grew even more emotional as they wandered through London at night. The quiet glow of the street lamps, the soft hum of the city, and the sight of the river under the moonlight created a setting that felt written for them. He leaned close and told her that he had dreamed of this moment countless times, but living it now with her surpassed every dream. His voice was heavy with gratitude, as if he was thanking the heavens for gifting him such a moment. On one evening, as they stood in the countryside overlooking a valley painted in golden sunset, Sheikh Hamdan's emotions overwhelmed him. He confessed that his invitation had not just been a gesture of love but an unspoken plea for her to stay in his life. He told her that being beside her in England felt like destiny unfolding, and every heartbeat whispered that this was where they were meant to be. Not in palaces or crowded halls, but in the simplicity of togetherness. Shamma listened with tears glistening in her eyes, her heart swelling with emotions she could barely contain. She realized then that his invitation had been more than a journey across continents. It had been a journey into his soul. His emotional words revealed his deepest fears and greatest hopes, and she could feel the sincerity that flowed from him like a river. She knew she had been entrusted with something far greater than a royal gesture. She had been entrusted with his heart. Every day they spent in England was marked with meaning. A walk in Hyde Park was not just a walk but a declaration of freedom. A stroll through Oxford was not just sightseeing but a silent promise of intellectual companionship. And a ride through the countryside was not just adventure but a reminder that their bond was built on trust. Each moment became etched in time, because his emotional words accompanied every experience, turning them into memories that would last forever. Sheikh Hamdan often told her that in England he felt more human, more real, less bound by duty and more bound by love. He said her presence gave him courage to step outside the shadow of expectation and into the light of truth. With her, he no longer needed to be only the crown prince, he could simply be a man in love, unafraid of showing his emotions, unafraid of being vulnerable. And that, he said, was the greatest gift she had given him. As their time in England reached its final days, Sheikh Hamdan's emotions grew deeper. He told Shamma that he wished the days could stretch longer, that the nights could hold them tighter, and that the air itself could carry their laughter forever. His words became more poetic, more heartfelt, as though he was carving each moment into eternity. He told her that England had become sacred to him now, not for its history or grandeur, but because she had walked its lands with him. When they finally prepared to leave, Sheikh Hamdan whispered to Shamma that this journey was only the beginning. His emotional words carried the weight of forever, assuring her that their story was not bound by distance or time. England had been the stage of their love's revelation, but their future would be written wherever their hearts would lead them. His voice, filled with love and vulnerability, made it clear that this was not just an invitation fulfilled. It was the foundation of a lifelong bond. Sheikh Hamdan felt an ache in his chest as the plane left the runway, carrying them away from England and back toward the life of duty and responsibility that waited. But as he looked at Shamma seated beside him, his heart calmed. He knew that the memories they had created in England would remain like treasures locked within them forever. Turning to her, his voice low and tender, he told her that no palace, no throne, no title could ever bring him the kind of peace he found in those simple days with her. It was then she realized how deeply he valued the time they had shared, and how much it had shaped his vision of their future. As the clouds floated past the window, Sheikh Hamdan began to speak about what England had awakened in him. He told Shamma that the trip had shown him how fragile happiness can be and how important it is to hold tightly to the one person who brings light into a storm-filled world. His emotional words resonated in her heart like poetry, filling her with an unshakable certainty that she was the anchor he had long searched for. Her eyes softened as she leaned closer, and he kissed her forehead gently, sealing the promise that this journey had not been in vain. When they returned to Dubai, the atmosphere was vastly different, royal obligations, public appearances, and the eyes of millions upon him once more. Yet, something about him had changed. His advisors noticed his lighter step, his warmer smile, and his steady gaze that seemed to drift away when Shamma entered the room. He carried with him the quiet of English gardens, the freedom of countryside rides, and the intimacy of late-night walks along the Thames. And in every glance he shared with Shamma, people could sense there was something profound unfolding between them. He told her one evening, as they walked in the royal gardens of Dubai, that he had brought England back with him, not the physical land, but the spirit of it. Every tree here now reminded him of the ones where they had rested, every breeze carried a memory of her laughter echoing through London's streets. "You," he whispered, "are my England, no matter where we stand. You are the land of my healing, the place where my soul finds peace." Those words lingered in her heart, reminding her that his love was not bound by place, but by presence. Shamma, too, felt transformed by the journey. She was no longer just the woman who captured his attention, she was the keeper of his heart. She often found herself closing her eyes and recalling the moments of England, the sunset valleys, the rain-kissed air, his hand gripping hers tightly as though he never wanted to let go. She realized then that she had stepped into a love that was both fragile and fierce, a love that demanded courage but rewarded her with the warmth of eternity. Sheikh Hamdan continued to speak to her in ways that left her breathless. In private moments, he revealed that inviting her to England had been his silent test of destiny. He wanted to see if the land that gave him clarity could also embrace her spirit, and it had. "When you smiled at the rivers, the hills, the gardens," he confessed, "I knew that the same land that healed me accepted you as part of me." His words melted into her soul, and she began to understand the depth of his vision for them both. Their bond only deepened with time. While the world speculated, and the whispers of the palace echoed with curiosity, Sheikh Hamdan remained firm in his truth. He told her not to worry about what others might think, for their story was not written for spectators but for their own hearts. "England taught me this," he said, "that love needs no audience. It only needs two souls who dare to hold on despite everything." His emotional words gave her strength, fortifying her against the storms of public judgment. At times, the weight of responsibility pulled him into silence, but Shamma's memory of England always drew him back to her. When meetings stretched long and days became heavy, he would send her small notes, reminding her of the countryside rides or the night they spent gazing at the stars. In those simple gestures, he told her she was not forgotten. His emotional words, even in writing, carried the same tenderness as his voice, binding her to him even in distance. One night, under the Arabian sky, he confessed that he had feared she might not accept his invitation at all. "I worried," he admitted, "that you would see it as a burden, a duty, or worse, a mistake. But when you said yes, I felt the universe shift. I felt like the stars aligned for us." Shamma's heart swelled with emotion, and she whispered back that her yes had been the easiest decision of her life. His hand trembled slightly as he pulled her close, whispering once more that she was his destiny. The echoes of England became part of their language of love. Whenever life grew difficult, he would remind her of the rain that kissed her cheeks as they walked through London, or of the fields that stretched endlessly, reminding them of possibilities. These reminders were not mere memories, they were vows. He used them as proof that no matter the challenges, their love had roots deep enough to withstand anything. His emotional words became anchors for her, holding her steady in a sea of uncertainty. Shamma began to see how England had transformed him. The prince who once carried the burden of a kingdom now carried also the heart of a man unafraid to love. His poetry became richer, his words more heartfelt, and his presence softer. Every poem he wrote after their trip carried hints of England, the mist, the rivers, the hidden valleys, but above all, they carried the reflection of her, the woman who had walked beside him and made the land sacred with her presence. Their love story, however, did not remain untouched by challenges. Whispers in the palace questioned why he had taken her there, what it meant, and what it would become. But Sheikh Hamdan stood firm. "No one," he said to her one night, "has the power to rewrite what is already written in my soul. England may have been a journey, but you, my love, you are my eternity." His words silenced her fears, replacing them with a quiet confidence that they were walking a path no obstacle could erase. Together, they created a sanctuary in their hearts. When the noise of the world grew loud, they closed their eyes and returned to England, to the simplicity of two souls walking hand in hand. He often told her that England was not the beginning, nor the end, but the revelation of their truth. "It was the land that witnessed my confession," he said, "but the universe itself is our witness now." His emotional words became like scripture to her heart, etched so deeply that nothing could remove them. And so, their love continued, not confined to places or moments, but carried in every glance, every touch, every whispered word. Sheikh Hamdan's invitation had been more than a trip across oceans, it had been the unfolding of a destiny. His emotional words, spoken in England and beyond, became the melody of their lives, reminding them that love, when true, transcends borders, expectations, and even time itself.